Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the WTC Squadcast Into the Squad, where we get a deeper insight into the teams themselves, how do they form their squads, and what do they expect from the WTC event. I'm Işık, and today we have Gaz Jones, the Wales captain, as our guest. And thanks, Gaz, for coming on to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Uh, can you introduce yourself for people who don't know you? I know you're a very permanent part of the event, but there might be newer attendees who don't know who you are.
Basically, I think the best way to describe me is a bit like Bootstrap Bill in Pirates of the Caribbean. I've just kind of become part of the furniture. I'm sort of, I just kind of appear at WTC or the other events and stuff like that, and it's just something that I seem to now do by automation. But yeah, I've been doing WTC now, and for those people who don't know me, Welsh captain for a couple of years now, and coming through. Can't even think how long I've been doing it. A long time. I've been doing the WTC stuff, but yeah, it seems to be something that I just can't shake. I have that desire to come out and see all these people from all over the world who just love the same stuff I love, same like-minded people. Just get to spend some time with them and have some fun. That's me.
I know you have been the captain of Wales, but I actually don't know how long because I know you predate me by quite a few years. But how long had you been the captain of Wales, and how long had you been actually attending the event?
My first event was 2009, as actually a member of Team England. So most people who know Britain and the UK is the UK is kind of like a bastardization of nations, and we're all, a lot of us are dual nationality or even three or four nationalities. So myself, I'm actually quarter Welsh and quarter English, and I'm also quarter Norwegian and quarter Cypriot. So
Oh, okay, that is quite a mix.
yeah, so if Wales ever get sick of me, I might suddenly become Norwegian or Cypriot. But uh, but no, I started out with Team England going way back to 2009. So that was the first 40k sort of European event, and it was there were 10 teams back then,
Let's
40k
see,
teams.
2009 there were 16.
16, or it might be 2000. Yeah,
2008 and 7 were 10 teams. I have my records in front of me.
that's the Warhammer. What about the 40k side? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure there was only 10.
I'm looking at the 40k side. In 2008 there was 10, and there wasn't any
Was,
England.
was was it 2008 was the first year? Oh yes, it was. 2008 was the first year.
2007 was the first
Seven.
England show up. You might be mentioning that.
How old am I? How old am I? Am I really that old? Is it
You
2007?
Yeah,
I
because
thought it was.
there
Oh, it was
isn't
2009.
an English team in 2008, and the only other event with 10 teams is 2007.
Yes. Yes, it was 2007 then. I went to the very first. I know I went to the very
And
first 40k one with 10 teams, and we went with England. Now, for those people have been around a while, and I mean you have to have been around quite a while to know this, but there used to be quite a large gaming group called Flame On in the UK, and basically the England team was just Flame On. So there was my friend Dave Minnis was the England captain, and he basically grabbed a bunch of his mates. He found out about this European competition, and he said, right, let's go over, let's get a flight, and we'll go and see what it's all about. And I remember it vividly. I remember it was in a school in Poland, in Gorzów, and yeah, we flew over, and we stayed on crash mats in a classroom in the school. So it was really back when I must have been. I think I was 19 when I went to my first one. Yeah, 2007. Yeah, I was 19. So that's going back a long way. But yeah, and it was really good. We went with people brought their girlfriends and wives and stuff, and we just had a really good time. And we sort of did it on the cheap because we were all sort of either students or just recently out of being a student, and it was just beer in a school really. So what more could you ask for?
uh,
And I Ref. I remember I played Tyranids at that event. Yeah, I did. Yeah, Tyranids.
Was that your first team tournament? Or essentially, when did you play? When did you start playing 40k? Was it one of your first big events?
Oh, 40k. Oh, that's going back even further. I think I started playing 40k in about 1993, 1994.
Well, that would be yeah. You would be age 7 or something back then.
Yeah, I was about 6 or 7, yeah, when I first started. I was about 7, yeah, I must have been, because I remember getting some of the 40k stuff from one of my friends, and just sort of trying to paint it and play. So we started. That's when I started playing 40k, and started playing competitively, going to events when I was about 11 or 12. So I'd go with my mum or my dad would take me, and I'd play at Warhammer World in Nottingham, things like that, and then the local games workshop used to, like, as I got a little bit older, sort of started to become a teenager. The local games workshop used to run, like, they'd do a bus with a chaperone, so they'd have a member of staff would come with all the kids who were under 18, and they'd take them to Warhammer World or whatever, and we'd go for a tournament. I've still got a trophy from that. I won a tournament called Conflict North. I think I was about 15, 14 or 15. That was the first one I won. I've still got the certificate from it. So, but yeah, that's a long time ago now. But yeah, 40k's been in my lifeblood for too long. But it's something I can't seem to shake. I just always come back to it. I've never really left. I think most recently is probably my longest hiatus from playing because of COVID and everything, because of what's been going on. I've just not had anyone near me to play. So yeah, that's the only thing that's really put a stop to it. Is an international pandemic is the only thing that's really stopped me getting involved.
And that's a pretty high bar as well to
Yeah.
start to get you to something. So can you mention how Team Wales became a thing? Because you
No, well, I don't know how Team Wales was formed. I do know that some of my friends who were on the sort of earlier Welsh team, but the I think the original Welsh team, they'll probably correct me because I'll probably be wrong on this, but I think the original Welsh team, those players are just not. I don't know who any of them are, or any of them were. But then a couple of sort of friends of mine who were Welsh joined that team. So there was a guy called Stu Robertson, who was a very good 40k player back in the day. Those who know the UK scene from, say, about 10 plus years ago will know that Stu was a very good player. He used to win GTs and things like that. And then there's a guy called Mike Collins, who those who've attended the European tournaments or the World WTC in the past have met Mike, will know what he's like. But he was involved early doors, and then from there the team kind of grew, and eventually they amalgamated me into their team, because I left the England team, and was going to come as a referee to the I think it was. Yeah, it was the second event in Poland. Can you remember what year that was?
I think that would be 2012. No,
Yeah,
no, no,
that
no,
sounds
or
right.
2011. Yeah.
2011, yeah. So the I was going to go and ref that year, and Team Wales had a dropout last minute, and they needed a Welsh player to come play for them, and they knew I was part Welsh, so they asked me to step in and play. So that's when I joined the Welsh team, and I've been with them ever since.
Oh, okay, so that is it. So you go back with the team. How did you become the captain? When did that happen? And is the pro? Can you tell us about the process of that? How
Yeah,
has your
so
stewardship
so the
begun?
so the Welsh captaincy is an interesting one. There's a lot of politics involved in it, historically. I'm not going to go into that because I don't think it's my place to. But um, there was kind of it kind of it, the Welsh captaincy has always been kind of a baton pass. There's not been like a process in becoming Welsh captain per se. There's no like tournament ranking system or or big kind of competition in any way or anything like that, or having to put proposals forward or anything like that. It was kind of just the old captain had enough and just said, right, does anyone else want to be captain? Here you go, it's your go now. I think that will resonate with some of the smaller nations involved in the competition, because just trying to get a squad together, a team together, is hard enough. And so like you're not really concerned about fighting for captaincy, if that makes sense. So you're not sort of like I'm trying to think of a larger nation like maybe the USA or England or Russia. There might be a lot of competition for places. And so they'll need obviously a much more kind of rigid structure to their team in terms of team selection and captaincy selection and things like that. Whereas with the Welsh team, we're lucky if we can get 8 players. We really do struggle because it's hard to get people sort of dedicated to coming to the tournament. Just because of real life issues, really nothing to do with the tournament. Everyone wants to come. It's just it's kids, or it's a summer holiday and I've got the kids, or it's the family holiday time, or I've not got the money and things like that, because it can be quite expensive to come.
I don't
So
have the
things like
time
that.
off, or real life
Yeah,
does get in the way.
yeah. So it's not through lack of trying. I've got plenty of people who want to come. It's just whether they can actually come. It's one of those. So and then so the captaincy, it kind of I'll get the order wrong, but the ones I remember, Stu Robertson was the captain, and then it went to Mike Collins, and then it went to Matt Robertson, who now plays for England, because again he's like me, he's part English, part Welsh. So he's played for both
For people
teams.
who are watching this podcast, he is the handsome gentleman in the yellow top, in the pink top,
Yeah,
which has 100% Khaleesi on top, is the Matt Robertson.
yeah, yeah. So he was captain sort of during the Game of Thrones height, and he became our Khaleesi, so Mother of Dragons. And, if people know the Welsh flag, we've got a red dragon on our flag. So, but it went to Robbo, and then it went back to Mike Collins, and then it went to Simon Weekly, who some of you may, because he's more recent, some of you may remember him with his painting black as a colour is the Simon Weekly meme. So he tried to paint some Gene Steelers black with a black wash and a black dry brush, and claim it had 3 colours on. So you can imagine what kind of person he is. He's actually, incidentally, he's now the Warhammer, or what's it called now, Age of Sigmar. He's the Age of Sigmar Welsh captain now recently.
He's quite
Um,
successful in that. I think they.
yeah, he's just good at 40k and Age of Sigmar. He's a good war gamer. I think you have to be a good war gamer just in general, to be at this kind of level. And most people would be able to pick up pretty much any kind of war game and be good at it. But Simon is obviously exceptionally good to go and take over another country in a different competition. So fair play to him there. Well done on that one. But yeah, then so Simon had it, and then after Simon relinquished it, it was kind of a weird time, because I think a lot of us had grown up in terms of we'd spent a lot of our lives playing Warhammer 40k. I've told you now, I've been playing it for over 26 years. I've been playing. Oh god, no, older than that, 28 years, whatever it is. I keep forgetting how long. But yeah, 20 odd years, nearly 30 years I've been playing, and a lot of the guys on the Welsh team are similar. They've been playing it for a long time, and so it was kind of a strange situation where Simon left, and then there was kind of an open captaincy spot that no one really wanted, um, because we just wanted to play, and people who are captains of international teams will know that there is an awful lot of organisation, admin, um, you know, holding people's hands, bringing people together, introducing new people, scouting new people, all of this kind of stuff. Organising events, lots and lots of things you've got to do as a captain, which you're doing off your own time, off your own back. And basically, what happened was I got told by Adam Ryland and Mike Collins you're going to be Welsh captain, aren't you, Gaz? And nodding at me, yeah, you're going to do it, aren't you, Gaz? Definitely you. You're going to do it, and I just got pushed into it, but I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. I feel like I've done a good job in the past with the Welsh team and the organising of it, and I hope I am, and I hope I'm still doing a good job now, trying to grow the team and find more Welsh blood, Welsh players, get them involved with the squad, which is, that's the aim, is to get more people involved in the hobby, make more friends, and get, hopefully one day I can pass the book on to someone else when I eventually give it up.
Yeah, about that, that's actually one thing I want to learn about the Welsh community. How much of a player base are we talking about when it comes to player numbers?
It's a difficult one because it's when you talk about, like, I'm sure when you've talked to other countries' captains about their player base, they're obviously they're involved all the time. Whereas I actually live in England, so even though I'm the Welsh captain, I live near Manchester in England, so I don't really get to see the Welsh player base very much. So I have to do a lot of it virtually. So it's a lot of chatting in WhatsApp and things like that, or it's a lot of trying to. I try and run events, which encourages team play, and encourages teams to come over. So I ran one recently called Battle of Britain. So with lockdown, we weren't able to have our usual international events, so things like Home Nations or things like WTC. So I tried to organise just a local event between Scotland, England, and Wales, because obviously we're all on the same island, so we can travel to each other.
Hmm.
So eventually I managed to run that, and it went ahead in October, just gone, and that was really good. I got to finally meet some of the Welsh guys face to face who I've only really spoke to over a text chat app, and that was good. But there is a decent player base in Cardiff. There's a really 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 top notch venue there called Firestorm. It's really good. But it's just one of those. It's with modern life and I've got my own family now and stuff like that. So I'm I've got two kids and stuff. Whereas before I didn't have any kids or anything like that, so I could just go away at a weekend and it wasn't a big deal. Whereas now it is. Just traveling to Cardiff is quite tricky. I mean, I'll say it's like a 6 hour journey or whatever, 5 6 hour journey, and then someone who lives in a country like Russia will just be like, that's nothing,
Oh,
but it can be, it's a long journey, especially when you work a full week and stuff like that, and trying to get away for a weekend, it can be difficult to do that. So I do struggle to get over there, but like I say, I try and make up for that by running events that allow people to mix with each other, especially the home nation teams. That's kind of what I really enjoy doing, is it's just building community and working with player bases and things like that, and trying to give everyone a sort of a platform to kind of play their game and make friends and have a good time. Really, that's what I like to do most. I think that's why I said yes to the captaincy. I saw it as a way of letting me do more of that.
I guess so you're more like puppet mastering from away instead of because of where you are. I mean, I didn't meant it nefariously. I mean, I was like,
No, no, I see, because I've played a lot of 40k. I mean, I've played a stupid amount of 40k, and I don't enjoy it now as much as I used to, because I can't keep up, because real life is getting in the way. So, like, when I was 19, 20, 21, I was on top of my game because my whole life was 40k. To sort of two, 2005 to like 2010, I felt I was a very, very good player. I always fancied myself in an event. I always thought I'd at least podium at any event I went to, because I knew pretty much everything about everything. Whereas now, I don't even know what the armies are called sometimes, which, you know, people say, Astra Militarum or whatever. I'm like, what are they? Are they guard? Are they Marines? What are they? I don't know.
so
So,
not. I'm pretty sure. Right, some people definitely mix them up because we had this. This was in 2017 in Salamanca with the pairings. We had two teams against us who read
mhm.
the Adeptus Ministerum as Astra Militarum and put their pairings incorrectly, and didn't. It's like I that is such. Yeah, you're not the only one, definitely. Uh,
Yeah, I think as well because a lot of the players from all these countries, sort of the more kind of not I don't mean older in age, I mean older in terms of people who've been around on the scene for a long time. We've all kind of reached that stage in our lives where we've got a lot of sort of plates to spin. So we've all got our jobs, we've all got kids, we've all got families, we've all got parents who might be getting older that we've got to look after more and things like that. And so 40k sometimes takes a backseat in terms of planning preparation, but we still want to be there. We still want to be involved. That's how important like WTC is to us. That even when I do feel out of my depth on certain things, I still want to come and I still want to be involved and I still want to add anything I can to the community with it because it's just so important.
oh yeah, it's at a certain point. If you especially play several editions, the rules start mixing up, and at that
Yeah,
point, it's more. It's what you said that starts to matter even more because it stops being just about the game, what is on the table, and what starts mattering more is what is off the table, which is, it's the cliche, but it was the friends we made along the way that mattered the most.
exactly. I couldn't leave this game, even if the rules were just like, I don't know. I always make the joke about Tiddlywinks with my friends. It's like, even if Games Workshop released 40k rules, which were the same as Tiddlywinks,
I don't know what the
still be.
livings is. I'll be honest.
Oh, it's just a really childish game where you have some counters that you've got to kind of bounce them into a cup.
All right.
So yeah, it's a game from sort of for little kids. But even if they made a game like that, like a really rubbish game, Snakes and Ladders or something or whatever, I would still be involved because of the community. I've got so many friends, like my lifelong friends, all my lifelong friends have all played 40k at some point. People I've been friends with since I was a little kid, up until now. I'm still friends with because of 40k. And without 40k, I wouldn't have had, the friendship groups I have or the relationships I have across the world and stuff. I think it's very special in terms of a hobby for that because it definitely helps. It helps us awkward geeks who we want to play war games in our mum's basement to meet the cliche when we were little. But as we grow up, it gives us that ability to kind of learn how to come out of our shell a bit, discuss, talk, reason, argue, all these things over a tabletop in a friendly environment. And I think it's really good for people who are like-minded to myself. And I get to meet those people and share my life with them, so it's great.
Yeah, it's it's just I fully agree with you. It was almost it becomes addictive. The
Yeah,
event itself is addictive because of the size and so many different people from so many different countries. Where you there's for most people there's no way that they will be in such an environment.
no,
For me, it's there's no way that anything I do will result in me ending in a place with people from 40 different countries, except for 40k. And
yeah,
on top of that, when you attend these events year after year, you actually make friends in the events and you long to see them every year.
yeah, absolutely. Like there's people I've kind of where it's weird. You don't see them for a whole year, and you go back, and it's like you were with them yesterday. It's really nice. It's just such a nice feeling, and you spend a week with them, and it's the best week ever. It's just a fantastic time, and then you have to go again. You've got to wait, and I honestly, like you say, it is addictive. I will spend the whole year planning for the WTC. That's what I spend my time doing. I
I
just I'm I just look forwards to the WTC. That's it.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. It's most of the countries orient their 40k tournament schedule just on
Mm,
the WTC, and the people involved orient their and arrange their personal lives on attending the event. They make sure they take the time off as soon as the event dates are certain. They make sure that their familial obligations are matching it. They talk with their spouses or partners about, and they make sure the kids are uh, they're taking care of kids around. Money is put onto the
Yeah.
side for it, and it it is a special thing. It's for anybody who hasn't attended yet. You as soon as you enter the hall, uh, you are. This might be a bit of strong, but you are possessed by the atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, if you are a wargamer, if you like 40k, there's nothing better. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't invite someone over who wasn't interested in it. But if that is what you are interested in and you like that and you get to that thing, I mean, there are bigger events in the world in terms of numbers of people attending sometimes, but I still don't think you get that mix of community and cultures and people and environment and experience that you just don't get that anywhere else. Um, it's just fantastic. Like the best thing about it is, you know, when you go out in the evening or whatever, and you go for a meal with 10 other countries, so there's 80 guys or and gals in a restaurant, and you just kind of sat there, just sort of drinking in the atmosphere, um, and learning about other people's cultures and learning about other people's countries and learning about other people's lives. Um, and there just wouldn't be any other way I could do that other than 40k. I'm not an Olympic athlete, so I'm not getting it from that. So it's,
It's exactly like that. It's
yeah,
you walking down, especially when it is a place like Novi Sad, where it's a
yeah,
smaller place, compared to, let's say, I think Athens would be a bigger. It would be one of the bigger cities we have been in. If you go to Novi Sad and you could walk down the main square, oh, you see the Norwegians are staying at this restaurant, the Italians are there, the Americans are two cafes back, and then oh, are those the Australians? And this is
mhm.
it. It's like you
Like
can
an invasion.
and you
It's
you
it.
can't finish the square because you have to stop and chat with everybody, and then it's like
Yeah,
11 p.m. and you're hungry, and it's like shit. We chatted so much. We need to find some place to eat food.
yeah.
So
It's just brilliant. So yeah, it's far beyond 40k. 40k is a great way in, and it's a great tool. For what I see the real thing of the WTC is like a community project, basically just this like bringing people together from all different backgrounds, from all different walks of life who share a similar interest, and just have a great time for a week. Just you know, and
yeah,
that's what I see it as.
40K is just a filter where okay, it's a pre-filter where it makes sure that you are at like-minded and we share one hobby, and at that point it's quite easy to because you can just talk to anybody, you can walk to anybody in the hall and just say Magnus did many things wrong, and they'll agree
Mm,
with you, and if they don't, that means they are wrong and don't trust their opinion because Magnus did indeed do many things wrong.
yeah.
Jokes aside though, uh, that could I can quite I can keep talking about the community, but I also want to know about the Welsh community a bit more. You said that there were players that you couldn't meet, and you saw. But could you give me an estimate number of the competitive players?
So players who are actually interested in playing for WTC, I will be lucky to get a team of 8 committed by January.
So
To give you an idea of size.
so it is a smallish community then, because
Yeah,
it's no, no,
really cool.
no,
Yeah,
trust me, there are.
yeah.
Well, I can tell you that in Turkey there wasn't any point in the Turkish team's history that I could ever dream of having 8 players.
Hmm.
And so it's like it doesn't mean we didn't have 8 players in the country. It meant that there wasn't a alignment of stars where all those 8 players could make the trip. So it's like I
Yeah,
fully understand.
yeah. I mean, there are some good players in Wales who are not wanting to get involved in the WTC. But there's plenty of them. But it's terms of like a WTC community. It's a hard sell. because of the time investment and the financial investment. But once people are in, they're hooked.
It's definitely different than a singles tournament, even if there are
Yeah,
bigger singles tournaments. But the team aspect is, like you mentioned, the time investment is actually quite important because you need to start preparing for the event months ahead. This is not just
mhm.
like, oh, I just bought my event ticket, hotel, and plane ticket. Now I can forget about it until a month earlier. Just study the meta and learn about my
As
list. That's not
as
possible.
yeah, as captain, I start planning for the next event about 2 weeks after the previous one. I'll have a little break, I'll reset, and then I start again. So it's like being a football manager. You literally just go, right, that was a good season, next season, and it's all about gearing up to the WTC. So I feel like every event we go to, every event because I run my own team events in the UK. Every event I run, it's all about building that kind of momentum towards attending the WTC. And I try and sort of facilitate some of the other teams as well. So I do a lot with the home nation teams, or I'm holding an event in May next year, and the Dutch are coming over. For example, I'm hoping to hold another one in July. I haven't announced that yet, so there's, but that one will be sort of a last chance before the WTC. I think it's the 2 weeks before. So after
Oh,
list submission,
pretty soon to the event. So it's essentially a practice tournament almost.
yeah, basically, yeah, it's come and bring your lists and get up to scratch, make your mistakes here. And that's what I mean. It's an event in its own right. It has its own prizes. It's got its own prize support. It's got its own sponsors and things like that. But I still, even though I'm the TO, I'm the guy running it, I still see it as a warm up for the WTC.
Yeah,
So it's
especially with the smaller nations where they orient their whole schedule on the WTC. It is every event is almost seen as a practice event or at least a qualifying event for the WTC. It's like
yeah,
you don't put any major events in July because you need to. If it is a major event, you need to make sure it's earlier than July, so you can use it as a analyst practice event as well and a team selection event if quite earlier. So it's like nobody puts any event in August at all to make
yeah,
sure they attend the WTC, and it is it isn't quite interesting to see how it takes such a place, like it's such a big place in certain countries. In
yeah,
I was talking with the Polish, and they said we don't really host singles tournaments at all. They like uh, our entire tournament circuit is
yeah,
geared towards the WTC, and
yeah. Well,
that explains their success, I guess.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, there's a massive community in England, from the England players, like a huge community. So I think just running exclusively team events wouldn't work here because you've got a lot of players who prefer the single aspect of the game. But there is definitely appetite for team events in our collection of countries. Like I say, I ran one recently at Glasshammer Gaming. I'm sure most of you know Manny and Dan from Glasshammer. But those guys hosted an event for us where we had 10 teams, like I said, the Battle of Britain event before. So that was really good, and everyone loved it. Well, that's what everyone said to me. Whether they said behind my back if they didn't, but no, they said they loved it. So I'm happy saying
So
that.
you're not going to dig any further to make sure about that, if that answer is correct.
No, I'm sure they all went with a smile on their face. So I didn't see anyone particularly pissed off with me or anything. But yeah, everyone seemed to enjoy it. And I had a great time because I was running it, so I didn't have to actually play, so I could just focus on talking and sort of mixing and meeting guys. And we went out for a meal on a Saturday night, and I got to go and chat with the Welsh guys I don't get to see, things like that. So it was, and I finally managed to meet people face to face who, like I say, I've been talking to for ages. It was just really good to do that. But yeah, do love a team event. You get
Yeah.
to share your wins, share your losses. It's just makes the whole experience better, I think.
Okay, so that sort of makes my next question a bit redundant. I was planning to ask if you would prefer singles events or team events.
Teams all day long. Yeah, I genuinely before. So when I was playing 40k proper, so all through sort of like third, fourth, fifth ed, I would practice. I would play. Probably be playing something between like 15, 20 games a week. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so I was just practicing the whole time. And I'd go to singles events and I would just compete and try and do my best. Then sort of sixth edition came out, seventh edition, and I literally only ever played 40k at a singles event, and I used the singles events as practice for the WTC. So that was it for me. So I was like as soon as I was like really sort of getting a bit older and understanding that what I actually enjoyed out of the hobby, that the aspects of it that I enjoyed wasn't actually the game as much. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy the game in terms of it's kind of with the tabletop stuff and the wargaming and the sort of strategy side of things. I enjoy that aspect of it. I haven't really played Ninth Edition much. I don't think it's my favourite edition. I don't think the rules suit my style of play, but um, I'm not going to just give it up on a whim.
Yeah,
But the team side of it is far more appealing than just going to a singles event. And I think like if you win a singles event your own, it feels great. This is going to sound incredibly arrogant, actually. When you've been around as long as someone like me, I'm sure other people who are listening who have played a lot of events and have podiumed a lot and things like that. You kind of like not lose track, but you're looking for that next challenge or that next thing to do. And so it's the team side of things is trying to be successful with a team. That's even harder. That's so much harder to do. And hats off to anyone who manages it. It's just so impressive to see teams that have gone from the bottom to the top. I mean, England's a classic example of that. When I went all them years ago, there were 10 teams and we came 11th out of 10. So there was the team we were supposed to play in the final round. They went home and just didn't show up for the last game. They just like, right, we'll go home. And so they just basically grabbed some ragtag people from like bystanders and what have you, who just happened to have armies with them, who were just playing games on the side. Put them together in a ramshackle team, and they beat us. So, so yeah,
okay.
we were not a competitive team. We had two people who'd been to tournaments on our team, and the other six were painters. So to give you an idea of the strength of the England team back then, and then you've gone through like the sort of the Alex West era. If anyone remembers Alex West era, that was a couple of years of that, and then it's Josh Roberts. Obviously, everyone knows, or everyone who's involved WCC should know who Josh Roberts is, and
Yeah, he's the
his era's
co-captain of England.
co-captain now, yeah, with Tony Chu.
Hmm.
But they've gone, like I say, they've gone and they've had a third and a first. So they've been really successful. That's what I mean. You can go from the bottom to the top if you just put the work in. Um, Again, you still got to have the players. You have to have at least something to work with. But if you have, you can do it. So it's definitely worth kind of like. I mean, you've got small nations in the past, like Scotland have placed. Finland, they're a smaller nation. They've placed. So you've got these countries who don't have the population, but they've got that drive and determination to do well, and they manage to sort of get those podium finishes at the end of the day. So yeah, I think team events are a much bigger challenge, but also more fun than singles. To answer your question.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah,
more in-depth answer than I was
yeah,
expecting, and I'm happy to
me
hear
too.
that. I fully agree with you. It's obviously I'm. If I didn't agree with you, I wouldn't be in the position. So it's more like a. Uh, I mean, I am one of the TOs of the event, so it's like it's a given that I prefer. Although the singles event have their appeals, the team events are simply a whole nother ballpark, and it
You know
starts
what's
from
Go on.
yeah. I'll just finish it. It starts like you said, if a few weeks after the event ends to until the event ends proper. So it's a never-ending, almost never-ending cycle where it's you have to cultivate your players. You have to make sure they can, like, you have to get players who can take the wins, but also you can take the losses as well. You sometimes in some editions and some years you'll have some armies who are going there to lose, and you'll need to make sure you have players in your team that will lose all those games.
Yeah, yeah, it is tough, isn't it? When you sort of because you're an 8-man team, you've got to have robust people in your team who understand that. Look, your job is to lose as well as you can. Like you're gonna go under a bus, and we want you to get 5 points if you can out of 20.
Yeah,
And
even if 119 is better than a 020, so
exactly, yeah, and that's the good thing about it is you can have that. Like some of the best things in the event is when you've got like the last players playing and they've told the captain or whatever, I'm getting smashed, I'm going to lose horribly, and then other results start trickling in, and if it gets to that kind of bit where you look over and you're like, guys, we need 1 point to win the round, and then and
you,
then and you're all sat there waiting for him to finish because
you
you don't want to put the pressure on,
you have
and he
14
comes over.
people. You have
Yeah,
14 people watching the final too.
exactly. And you're like, and he'll come over and you're like, what'd you get? And he'll be like, oh, guys, I'm sorry, I lost 19-1. And everyone just goes, yeah. You just,
Yes,
yeah. And
yes.
everyone cheers and you're like, why? We've won the round. So your 1 point has won us the round. And it doesn't matter that three of you got 20-0. Yeah, it's sod you guys. It's this guy's the hero because he just got the one, which we needed. So it's one of those. It can be. It's so much fun, that kind of stuff. And then again, if you do lose, if you lose a round, you lose together. Like you lose as a team, so you're there to pick each other up. And it's you're not just sort of you haven't got that hollow feeling if you're going for an event, a singles event, and you are seriously trying to compete, and you get to round 5 and you've won 5 in a row. Sorry, you get past round 5, you won 5 in a row, and you got to that final round or whatever, and you lose, and you're just like, well, I've lost now, and that's it. You go home, and done. Whereas when you lose at WTC, you go out for that night with a meal with all your pals, and you'll talk about your bad dice or your stupid move that you did, or this guy's stupid luck or whatever. You just whatever story you want to make up as to why you sucked. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. No, it's that's genuinely the greatest part. It's like,
yeah,
and somebody it's I had this happen in us as well. It's like one of those guys. They literally just show up. Oh, I'm sorry, I lost 5-15. It's like,
yeah,
oh, I was like, and you don't tell them first. We didn't tell him we won because of him first. So
bro.
should be a bit of a dick there. But it's like, that is the great. That that is true that you don't get that in singles. You if you win, that is on you. If you lose, that is on you. In team,
Mhm.
it's a totally different ballpark. It's
Yeah, it's all togetherness. It's all about just being there as a team, and like I say, it's just that's what makes it great. You've got to as a captain, you've got to make sure you pick players that will understand that as well. Like you were saying before, you've got to pick players that understand that you might lose all your games, but it's how you lose them. Things like you've got to pick players who understand that there's no room for egos. You know, you can't have one guy who just constantly sort of measures his win ratio, his personal win ratio, and sort of I've won all my games, and this person sucks, and they're losing the event for me, and it just creates a bad vibe, and it's like, well, no,
no,
I,
no, no,
I
no. No, that's the
this is the
usually
team.
the best players in the teams are usually the bottom scorers, the lowest
Yeah,
scorers.
yeah,
Is because you send them against the hardest matchup as first defenders who are going to matches that if they win, that is near like they go onto the table knowing they will lose.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like you say. Do you give your best players the best lists and the best matchups to get the 20-0s, or do you put your third and fourth best players on those lists and they get 19-1s, 18-2s, but for your best player to then not get beat 20-0, but they lose 15-5, or do they lose 14-6? That makes a massive difference to a team. Picking up those extra couple of points in a round, it can be the difference between a win and a loss, or a draw or a loss, or a win or a draw. So yeah, definitely, it's definitely ways to do it. Or you could be really lucky with some nations and just have 8 amazing players. So, I wish, the dream, if only.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
that is the you you want 8 great players, but that like we had seen that in the it doesn't mean I'm meant to degrade them or anything, but we had seen them in America as in the USA team in the past, where they always had effectively an all-star team,
hmm
but they didn't perform well. Like it, like essentially the Olympic teams of the Americas. It's they, yes the basketball team is made of NBA stars, but they don't perform that well. But and we've seen in 40K, and until recently, uh, you the they show Nathan's stewardship, where the America team have won the event and did well in 2019. That sort of needed a different approach. Even if you have the pool to get 8 great players, you need to create a harmonious unit that
hmm
can play as a team and not get into petty squabbles.
Yeah, agreed. And it's all about especially on how your community practices as well. Like it might be difficult for a country like America where they're all spread out, but with the Welsh team, I mean, we can still meet up a couple of times a year at least, or even some of us in smaller groups can meet up more frequently. And there's no kind of like hiding our lists or hiding our tactics or hiding our things because we're worried about how we perform against each other in singles, because it's all about sharing our ideas and strategies and that, so we perform better as a team. Like I say, there is just no ego in it. When you're talking about good team players, you can't have that ego.
About that, in these COVID times, since obviously travel has been quite restricted, let alone international travel, did you take things digital? I mean, has TTS did you, when we couldn't meet, did you practice on TTS and try to build a
Yes.
community there?
So talking about having like great players on your team before, basically my team's got probably 7 really good players, and I'm the rubbish one. Um, because I've not had a chance to, but most of my guys are all on TTS, and they've all been practicing on it. I haven't had a computer that could actually run it until recently. So through lockdown, I just didn't have the money spare to buy a PC to run it because my laptop would just melt trying to run that software. But yeah, I need to give it a go myself. But no, like Ninth Ed for me is an alien game. I don't understand it. I don't know it at all. I will get a point probably in the new year where I will put some serious hours in. But I know I've spoken to my guys about it and stuff like that. This is I'm not always guaranteed that I'm going to pick myself to play. Um, so I could always end up just going as a non-playing captain. At the
That
end of the day,
that would be the
it's
dream, isn't it? As
yeah,
a fellow captain, you and I, from your words, I think you would agree. It would be a dream to have a 8 player roster
mhm,
that is all enthusiastic that can play, and you get to essentially just be the non-playing captain, arrange everything, but still be part of the process and go with the team.
yeah.
Uh, I, I, I wish there were 8 better players than me in Turkey who would be able to form the team. It just isn't the
Oh,
case.
there are definitely 8 better players than me in Wales. There, but it's whether or not they're better than me if I put the practice in. Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
I know I'm a good war gamer. I'm a good gamer. I can just pick up pretty much any game and be good at it. And then if I put the hours in, I can become very good at it. Just through experience. It's the same with anything. If you've put 10,000 hours into something, you're supposed to be a master at it, aren't you? I've definitely put 10,000 hours into 40K. So it's one of those things, isn't it? It's just I need to sort of it's a fine balancing act moving forward. But yeah, and it's getting those players who are dedicated to it, and sort of making sure that you trust the process, you trust what you're trying to build, and is it going to work for you? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to play or not yet. It depends how much time I find myself with, but I'm definitely coming. I just don't actually know in what capacity yet, whether I'm playing or not.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you then. Uh,
Mm.
Before we wrap things up, since we are running to the end of our time, I want to. Uh, we mentioned those 8 players. If you could get a ideal 8-person Welsh team, where do you think you'd place? Is if you had no uh,
Oh,
restrictions on models or essentially money, no restrictions of travel and every, you could form your ideal team. Where do you place Wales?
well, that's a good question. I think we've got some good players. Um, I think a realistic goal for us would be like top 10. That would be so maybe 10th would be like that would be a success, I think, for Wales. In the past we've done much better, but in the past we've had players who are considered sort of widely considered to be some of the best in their country, and by their country I mean the UK. Um, but obviously we've moved on. So our best ever finish was fourth.
I'll have to correct you on that. It was a fifth.
Fifth. No, sorry, yeah, fourth. We say fourth because we got well, no, that's bitter. We feel we got cheated out of the game with something, so we keep saying fourth internally, but it was fifth. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
there was some foul play from one of the other teams. I won't mention who, but we came fifth, which is we think exceptional for where we're at. In terms of the size of our nation, in terms of our player base, and we had some really good players in that team. We just didn't have 8 really good players, and that's no fault of the players who were not at the top of the game. They did a job for us. They came for us. They helped us. They played. They were just as dedicated as everyone else, and they just didn't have that raw talent that some of those players did have.
Uh,
Um,
it might not
it's
be just even raw talent. Maybe they're at the, let's say, the wrong stage of their wargaming life.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah,
you.
maybe.
I mean, raw talent definitely plays a part because you see that in certain players. You see them play, especially in real life in front of you in an event. It's like, oh, that move is ingenious. He has actual, like, he can play. Like, he has the stamina for it. He has the mental stamina
Mm,
for it. For example, this is a hypothetical example, and he has the physical stamina to play 3 to 4 games a day for several days, and then he can still not make the errors. And
mm,
on top of that, you have to find those 8 players in the same year, which is
yeah,
which is not that easy, which is a bit weird. It's like, yeah, if you could amalgamate a ideal team from like several years of your, like, oh, if I could get 2014 Alex and 2016 Tom and 2018 Des, it would be, yes, it would be a perfect team. But obviously, the time is linear, and we don't get to pick people like that.
yeah, yeah. No, I think you're dead right what you're saying. I think thinking about myself, I'm a really good example of exactly what you described. I think if I go back to sort of 6 or so years ago, I was on top of my game, or still in my games. I was good. I was very very good, and now I'm pants. Um, but because I don't know anything about the game, so it's about having that time, that stamina, like you say. Yeah, it's a really good example of what you say. But yeah, it's tough. We've got some really good players in our. So I haven't picked our team yet, but people who are interested. We've got people who are podiuming at events here in the UK
Mm-hmm.
in our team who are interested in the squad. So like we've got some good players. The problem is retention. It's keeping those good players year on year on year because people, like you say, they'll run out of steam. Um, So it's
Maybe they have 2 kids and their water pipe bursts in their home.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like me. But you guys all know Tom Layton. If you've heard him on his
He was one of the hosts in this podcast as well in the past
yeah, so
episodes.
he's on this war game, isn't he, as well? And
Hmm.
he's been my vice captain now these last year and a half, 2 years. And he's just been brilliant. But he's fingers on the button with the game all the time. So he's kind of basically my eyes and ears in terms of knowing what is good and what isn't good. So it's really good if you're like if you find yourself in a position like me, if you're kind of with a team or running a team or anything like that, and you don't really have that kind of time to focus on the game, try and find yourself someone like Tom in your community who is willing to kind of uh, stay on top of things. And I've got more than just one Tom. You know, I've got a couple of people who really still nose to the ground in terms of keeping up with all the competitive stuff. Um, but it's just making sure they all work together going forward.
It's herding those cats.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a final question for you, this is more about also trying for me as as a survey to make us reach the best WTC as possible. Can you describe your ideal WTC for us?
Aircon
Uh huh.
is so important.
No.
I
I fully agree. It's that's the
mean,
second one.
let's be honest, we're all war gamers. There's a significant minority of us who are on the larger side, and aircon is pretty important. But no, things like it's weird because I'm looking at it from a captain's perspective as opposed to a player's perspective. I think um, things like logistics are so important. So things like ease of access for everybody to get there. So near an airport, near a major train station, these kind of things, near bus routes, tram routes, these kind of things. It sounds really odd, but that's so important. You don't want to be going to like some sort of town in the arse end of nowhere where you just can't get there. It's impossible to get there. I mean, it's you've got to think a lot of these nations are flying in and trying to get there. It's tough. That's an important one, I think. Things like uh, it was it. I'm trying to remember which country it was now. Was it Zagreb where they had the kind of the shopping centre next door with the food court in?
It was the Zagreb, yeah, 2018.
Yeah, things like that. Just things you might not think of, but that's really key. I think that made the event really kind of smooth for a lot of players. They didn't have to worry about lunch or about food. If they were hungry, they could just pop over and get something. If for food or things like, or having a good caterer at the venue who provides good meals that with a bit of diversity. I know in the past, for example, we've had just like big vats of pasta cooked in like water from the sink, and it's like it's not the most appetizing food, and it's not great for when you like you say you're trying to play wargaming, so it's a big stress on your body and on your brain, and you're eating just like crap, and it doesn't help. So things like that, having like good food available is really key. And then things like nightlife, so places to go after the event is finished. So I remember I can't remember what it was now, but there was one that was in an aircraft hangar, just absolutely in the middle of
I
nowhere.
think that was
Literally,
Czech,
was
2015.
that the Czech? Yeah, it was just in the middle of nowhere, and it was just like, how do we get anywhere? How do we go and get food? There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to sort of things like that. So that was rough. Whereas like the
I think Novi Sad
on
is the golden standard, and no, maybe Zagreb, but most likely Novi Sad because it was the town, the city essentially. It was small enough where it wasn't too expensive, but it was big enough that you could find places to go, but it was
yeah
small enough where it wasn't hard to travel. So you could go down to the uh, essentially this main square, and everybody in the event would be there.
Yeah, yeah. Novi Sad was good for that. The only problem I found with Novi Sad was once we went there. Once you've gone there 3 years, it's kind of like, okay, we've been here now. Um, like for me personally, I enjoy the roaming aspect of the hobby. I understand that there are There are difficulties as an organizer that perhaps mean we need to be in the same place for a couple of years or so. And I get that, and I totally understand the reasons for that. But I still think you need that roaming aspect in the long term. So maybe 2 or 3 years in one location,
Oh, I
and then
agree.
2 or 3 years in another location to keep that kind of that fresh holiday feel about it still. Because I know at the end of the day, yes, it is a tournament, and it is a tournament to find the best wargaming nation, but it is also for a lot of people their break from life, and their way to go and enjoy themselves doing what they love, and they need that side of things as well. So that's really key. And then other than that, the kind of the actual event itself. Um, I mean, I kind of it's weird. The kind of is secondary. Like one of the best events I had was in Germany in Munster. Um, I slept on the floor of an ice rink. That's where I stayed. You know what I mean? And it was dead easy to get to. It had food nearby. It had beer nearby, and I slept at the venue on some blooming stone steps in the ice rink. You know, and I had a fantastic time. And I didn't really care about anything else. It was just about that kind of stuff. Whereas other events where you're kind of thinking that there's no food, the food's not good, there's no water, there's no access to kind of good toilet facilities, these kind of things. It's I know it sounds really weird, but that's what's
Yeah,
important to me.
look, it's the players. Essentially, the players need to not worry about anything.
Yeah,
That's that.
yeah,
It doesn't have to be perfect, but they
no,
simply don't have to worry about the
yeah.
simple stuff.
I think you get a really successful event if nobody notices all the really difficult things you've done.
Yeah, which is a bit, let's
Hello.
say, yeah, it's a bit disappointing that when
Yeah,
nothing goes wrong, people don't see the good sides because
yeah,
when everything functions, nobody cares about how it functions until it gets broken. Essentially,
yeah.
yeah,
That's what I mean. Like Zagreb's a really good example. Like the chairs in Zagreb, like they kept breaking, didn't they? But nobody cared because everything else was just so good. And something that's minor, like a chair breaking or whatever, it just became fun. Became part of the
and we
event.
started clapping with the doesn't.
Yeah, and because nobody cared, because everyone was relaxed, everyone had food easy, everyone had drink, everyone was cool because of the aircon and that kind of stuff. Everyone felt safe. All these things are what's key to the event, and the minor things that people might focus on, like do we have the right boards, do we have the right terrain, do we have the right this, that, and the other. Those things kind of uh, aren't as important as the rest, because if you don't get all the first stuff correct, then people will pick up on the minor things even more. So if you're a difficult venue to get to, or you've got shit toilets, or you've got bad food, or something like that, then people will also say, well, the train wasn't very good, and the boards weren't very good, and the chairs kept breaking, and they just look for more and more things to complain about. I know I'm guilty of doing that myself
Oh,
at past events.
that's a human nature because perception
Yeah,
is reality, and it's if you perceive the event as good, you genuinely you genuinely believe the event is good, even with the bad aspects. But if you believe the event
mm,
is bad, I don't think you'll. It would be hard to convince you to that the event was good, even if it the objective. Okay, so yeah, like even if you put a scientific of list of okay, the event you say good has this qualities, but the event you say bad has better qualities. That doesn't work. The humans don't function like that,
no,
and it's all about this. We don't do these things because we find them logical, even though the hobby is all numbers. We do these things because we like doing them because they make us feel good.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, that from someone who's been to all but one event, I would say, yeah, those are things important. Just as long as your players are comfortable, as long as they've got the amenities they need, with absolute ease, and there's no discomfort there, everything else will be fine. They won't, as long as the train is pretty good, as long as the boards are pretty good, things like that won't matter, as long as you've got good toilets, aircon, good food, good ease of access, good transport systems, these kind of things, good places to go. I think the actual event side of it, doesn't matter so much.
Yeah, I guess that's a good good point to end.
Yeah.
And if you have any shout outs you want to do, we can add that. If you have any special persons you want to call out.
Just Mike Collins for being an absolute melon, basically. He won't listen to this because he's out the Harvey now. But basically, Mike's my like surrogate brother. He took me under his wing when I first joined the Welsh team. And he basically helped me take over the captaincy eventually and talks me through things. I still sound off him now, even though he doesn't play 40k anymore. But yeah, he's all jokes aside, he's a good guy. He helped me a lot with things. But so cheers for that, Mike. Um, but yeah, I'll shout him out, and yeah, and thanks for I think I talk about Innes and Tony as well, Scottish and English co-captain. Um, the those two guys have been really good. We're trying to build a bit more of a UK kind of community in terms of events and things like that. And those two have been absolute sweethearts, just really helpful, really helping me sort of try and achieve my goal, which is to try and build these team events in the UK and bring the communities closer together. So thanks to those two as well for everything they've done, helping me.
Yeah,
But yeah,
and thanks for coming on. I learned new things about the how Wales 40k community works and how even more history about the tidbits I hadn't known about the history of the event, and this had been a fun experience. Thank you for coming on.
no problem. And just one more thing, just before I finish, just if
Mhm.
anyone is interested in joining the Welsh team, then contact Tom Layton.
Uh, yeah, I'll put out his personal info. I'll genuinely do it. So it's like he'll get random messages. So it's like people tell me to contact you, and he won't know who. So it will be great.
People will contact me, and I'll just be like, I don't know what to do.
Okay. Well,
Right, cheers, is it?
thanks for coming on, and thanks to everybody who listened. All the links we mentioned that will be in the description. So, thanks for listening, and see you in the next episode.